The first topic would be our atomic structure. Then we'll study elements, mixture, and compounds. ये प्लीज अपने पास सब लोग लिख भी लेना. Element, mixtures, and compounds. The third topic we're going to study would be states of matter, जिसमें we study about solid, liquid, and gases and diffusion. Then we will move on to the chapter chemical bonding. Or I'll see, maybe I'm gonna teach chemical bonding before states of matter. Okay, we'll see हमारी क्लास का क्या टेटम चल रहा है, उसके हिसाब से हम डिसाइड करेंगे. Yes, beta, these class notes and the handouts will be given to you. If you need it in soft copy, you will gonna have to access the portal. But if you need in hard copy, you have to contact the admin. Then admin will dispatch you the hard copies. Worksheets, class notes, and handouts, everything will be available. सारे आपके पास resources होंगे, including the recorded lectures. After this chapter, we will move on to the moles and stoichiometry. After that, redox reactions. Then metals and extraction of metals. Then we will start the chapter electrolysis. Then energetics. Energetics is endothermic, exothermic wala chapter hai. Then reversible reactions and rate of reaction. Achha, before I will see about the chapter acid, bases, and salt, because it is one of the lengthiest topic, acid, bases, and salts. So most probably after moles and stoichiometry or after redox reaction, I'm gonna teach you acid, bases, and salts. ठीक है, it depends कि हमारी क्लास की स्पीड और आपके टेस्ट के मार्क्स कैसे चल रहे हैं. Then organic chemistry, of course. Then we have experimental chemistry, and finally we're gonna study chemistry of the environment. And in the end, we may have to discuss some of the reactions from the periodic table. तो इस तरह से हमने अपना सिलेबस ब्रेक डाउन किया हुआ है into 16 चैप्टर्स. इस तरह से हम लोग चलेंगे. Right? Acha, when will all these topics be completed? We will have to complete all the topics in the month of March, because in the month of April, we're gonna start yearly past paper sessions. So before April, we have to complete all of these topics. Sare topics we have to complete by the end of March. From the start of April, from 1st April, we'll start doing yearly past paper sessions. Right? चलिए भाई, यहाँ तक क्लियर है? Does anyone have any questions regarding the syllabus and the timeline? मैंने आपको बता दी timeline. We have to end the syllabus in the month of March. From the month of April, we will do yearly past paper sessions. उसके बाद और भी बहुत सारी activities होती हैं, वो हम लोग एग्जाम के लिए आहिस्ता आहिस्ता आपको बताते रहेंगे. चलो भाई, moving on. थोड़ा सा फास्ट चलेंगे. एटॉमिक स्ट्रक्चर में चीजें बहुत इजी हैं और आप लोग बहुत सारे की फाउंडेशन क्लासेस में भी ये सारी चीजें देख चुके हो. वी आर जस्ट स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम द स्क्रैच. तो अगर किसी का कुछ रिवीजन करना था या कोई कॉन्सेप्ट क्लियर नहीं है, तो आज इंशाल्लाह सारी चीजें क्लियर हो जाएंगी. ठीक है जी. ज़ैनब बेटा, अभी हम स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं ना, तो in within 2 days we will be done with this chapter, including the topic isotopes. ठीक है भाई, चलो एटॉमिक स्ट्रक्चर में देखो, इनिशियली वी डिस्कस्ड इफ वी गोइंग टू डिफाइन एन एटम, तो हाउ वुड यू डिफाइन एन एटम? दिस डेफिनेशन इन द एग्जाम कम्स फॉर 2 मार्क्स, और जल्दी जल्दी से बेटा अगर आप टाइप कर सकते हो तो टाइप कर दो. हाउ वुड यू डिफाइन एटम? एन एटम is the smallest particle of an element that takes part in a chemical reaction. Okay, beta, in order to ace any subject for O level or IGCSE, you have to first understand the psychology of the examiner. Actually, we are going to learn all those definitions that are given in the marking keys. Marking keys तो आप लोगों को पता है ना, what are marking keys? जो examiner अपने answers लिख के देते हैं. So we have to use those keywords while writing our answers. Similarly, in this very definition, an atom is the smallest particle of an element. So the word smallest particle of an element is the keyword. ठीक है, ये आपको जरूर लिखना है. It is the smallest element that takes part in a chemical reaction. If you have written the word smallest particle of an element, you will earn 1 mark. And when you have written that takes part in a chemical reaction, you will earn another mark. Okay? In case if you write atom is the smallest particle of an element that takes part in a reaction, तो ये एक पूरा complete sentence नहीं है. You have to write a chemical reaction because there are 2 types of reactions, physical reactions and chemical reactions. So you have to be specific that atom is the smallest particle of an element that takes part in a chemical reaction. देखो बेटा, examiner Cambridge में they do not penalize spelling mistakes or grammatical mistakes. But अगर कुछ चीजों से आपका concept गलत हो जाता है ना, तो वो penalize जरूर होता है. ठीक है, ये टाइम टू टाइम आपको बता दिया जाएगा. whenever you have to write anything in your theory paper or structured paper, you have to make sure to use the keywords. If you are using the keywords, you will earn your marks. Otherwise, you will keep losing your marks. तो जो चीजें यहाँ पे हाईलाइट की जाती हैं और पॉइंट की जाती हैं, make sure you have to learn those keywords. और ऐसा भी नहीं है कि you just go in the exam and write the keyword लिख के आ गए. You have to formulate the whole sentence because your theory paper is not known as theory paper, it is known as structured paper. You have to structurize your answer. इसको properly लिखना होता है, making a sentence structure के sense बने. Right? Now here in this definition, atom is the smallest particle of an element. Do you guys know the definition of an element? And can you differentiate between an atom and an element? ये भी एक important चीज है. जल्दी से मुझे element की definition बता दो. What is an element? An element is a pure substance. An element is a pure substance that is made up of same type of atoms only. See, you guys must have heard about many elements, like a gold is an element, carbon is an element, silver is an element, lithium is an element, sodium is an element. So if we are talking about, let's say, sodium element, a sodium element is made up of many sodium atoms. For example, if we place many sodium atoms in one place, that would be called as sodium element. Similarly, if we place many gold atoms in one place, that would be called as gold element. अगर बहुत सारे गोल्ड के एटम्स एक जगह पे एक साथ रख दोगे तो क्या बन जाएगा? गोल्ड एलिमेंट. तो एलिमेंट की डेफिनेशन में you always have to write that an element is a pure substance. A pure substance is that substance which contains only one type of thing, right? So if you are talking about pure gold or pure sodium element, a pure sodium element must only have sodium atoms. उसमें सिर्फ और सिर्फ sodium atom होना चाहिए. Pure gold element में सिर्फ और सिर्फ क्या होना चाहिए? Gold के atoms होने चाहिए. Yes, Ali, you are also right. Another definition for an element is that an element is a substance which cannot be split into two or more simpler substances. अब इस बात का क्या मतलब है? देखो, every element is made up of a particular type of atom. If we talk about gold element, a gold element is made up of many gold atoms. अच्छा, गोल्ड के अंदर जितने भी एटम्स होंगे वो सारे के सारे गोल्ड के ही होंगे. They are all are identical to each other. And a gold atom is represented by the symbol Au. So if we place many gold atoms in one place, that would make up your gold element. अगर आप बहुत सारे गोल्ड के एटम्स एक जगह पे एक साथ रख देंगे तो वो क्या बन जाएगा? गोल्ड एलिमेंट. So can you split this gold element? अगर for example, if you guys can see this pencil, let's assume अगर ये पेंसिल गोल्ड की बनी हुई है, can I split it into two halves? Yes, I can split it, but split करने के बाद both the pieces will be your gold element. ऐसा तो नहीं होगा ना, ब्रेक होने के बाद half of the piece remains gold and half of the piece became silver. ऐसा तो नहीं होगा. Both of the pieces will stay gold. So it can be split. Literally it can be split, but it cannot split to make an any other substance. वो रहेगा एक ही एलिमेंट. A gold element आप चाहे उसको एक बार करो, चार बार करो, all the pieces will contain gold atoms, so that's why all the pieces will be called as a pure gold element. ये मतलब है इस बात का. तो कहते हैं ना which cannot be split. Actually it can be split, but it cannot be split to form any new substance. Right, Ali? A simple substance that cannot be split into two or more substances. Yes, that is also the correct definition. आप लिख सकते हो. And ये definition आपकी chemistry matters की book में लिखी हुई है, जो Christopher and Prescott की book है. It is given over there. But why I am choosing this definition? Because in exam, this definition is given in the marking key. Examiner writes himself this definition. So if examiner is giving this definition, so it's better कि हम यही वाली definition याद रखें. And this definition also comes for 2 marks. और rarely आता है. इतना आसान नहीं हो रहा पेपर कि वो एटम और एलिमेंट की डेफिनेशन हर पेपर में पूछ रहे हो, कभी कभार पूछ रहे. We will discuss about compounds मारूक shortly. ठीक है भाई. तो if you gonna split gold, तो वो गोल्ड दोनों पोर्शंस पे गोल्ड ही रहेगा, राइट? अच्छा, अब we guys know that up till now in our planet Earth we have discovered around 118 and 119 elements. चाइना कहता है कि we have discovered 119 elements, 121 तक चले जाते हैं कभी कभार. But the periodic table that is given to us that has 118 elements, तो हमारे पास अब तक 118 elements हैं. Each element is represented by its particular symbol. देखो भाई, गोल्ड एलिमेंट जो है वो बहुत सारे गोल्ड के एटम्स का बना हुआ है. कार्बन एलिमेंट जो है वो बहुत सारे कार्बन के एटम्स का बना हुआ है. बने हुए तो सब एटम्स के ही है ना, बट देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन गोल्ड एटम्स एंड देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन कार्बन एटम्स. दैट्स व्हाई गोल्ड हैज different properties, carbon has different properties. Gold is expensive, carbon is very cheap. Gold is used as a metal, carbon is used as a non-metal, right? तो इनके में प्रॉपर्टीज में डिफरेंस का रीजन क्या है? वो डिफरेंस का रीजन क्या है? इनके एटम्स डिफरेंट है. And how their atoms are different? So first we have to study about their atoms. First we have to understand कि एटम से क्या मतलब है. तो इसलिए हमें सबसे पहले क्या पढ़ना होता है? स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ एन एटम. Any atom has how many number of subatomic particles? Atom जिन particles का बना हुआ होता है उनको हम कहते हैं subatomic particles. How many subatomic particles are there in the atom? 3 subatomic particles: protons, neutrons, and electrons. Yes, protons, neutrons, and electrons. We have protons, we have neutrons, and we have electrons. Protons and neutrons, they are actually clumped together at the center of an atom, which is known as the nucleus of an atom. मतलब अगर मैं आपको इसकी डायग्राम दिखाऊं तो न्यूक्लियस इज नॉट एक कोई वेसल नहीं है. न्यूक्लियस, प्रोटॉन्स, जस्ट सी, यू कैन नॉट सी द एटम बाय योर नेकेड आई. इन फैक्ट यू कैन डू नॉट हैव एनी सच अ माइक्रोस्कोप दैट कैन रिवील द इमेज ऑफ एन एटम. तो अभी तक तो हम एटम सही से देख नहीं सके हैं, बट from our experiments, we have determined that structure of an atom is something like that. That protons and neutrons are like tiny balls, जो कि center में clumped हुई हुई होती है. जैसे यहाँ पे we can see two types of ball, red balls हैं और कुछ green balls हैं. ठीक है? So red ball, let's say, are protons and the green balls are neutrons. And the electrons are very small, which revolve around the nucleus. जैसे यहाँ पे ये इसके around घूम रहा है. ठीक है भाई, यहां तक आई होप बाकी जो लोग नए हैं उनको पता होगा, और जो लोग पढ़ चुके हैं उनको तो बहुत डिटेल में बात हो गई थी इसके बारे में. अच्छा जी, about protons, neutrons and electrons. Now whenever we are going to represent protons, neutrons and electrons, we write the symbol P for protons, symbol N for neutrons and symbol E for electrons. Electron is also given the symbol E dash. E लिख के उसके ऊपर एक small e लिख के एक छोटा सा dash लगा देते हैं. ठीक है? So protons and neutrons, they are present in the nucleus of an atom, right? And electrons, they revolve around the nucleus. Moving on. Do you guys know about the relative mass and relative charges of protons, neutrons and electrons? जल्दी से बता दो. We have three types of subatomic particles. You are supposed to remember their relative masses and their relative charges. Yes, right answers, mashallah. So proton has a relative mass of 1, neutron has a relative mass of 1, and electron has a relative mass of 1 over 2000. You can also remember this value as 0.0005. Relative charge of proton is positive 1. There is no charge over the neutron, so their relative charge is 0, or you can also say neutral. Whereas the relative charge over the electron is negative 1. See, this is not the actual mass or actual charge of proton, neutrons and electrons. This is the relative mass or relative charge. And we discussed in detail. जिन लोगों को नहीं पता, I am just telling you the background behind it. This is not the actual mass of protons, neutrons and electrons. This is the relative mass. Relative mass is the ratio between the masses of the protons, neutrons and electrons. बेटा अगर actual mass होता तो उसका कोई unit लिखते ना. अब ये relative mass का क्या मतलब है? मैं जल्दी से एक चीज बता देता हूं आपको. Let's say if there is a mass balance, and on this mass balance I am standing and I weigh around 80 kg. ठीक है? And we have one of our students standing with me. Let's say Ali is standing and Ali has a mass of 40 kg. So our actual mass is, my mass is 80 kg, Ali's mass is 40 kg. ठीक है? ये हमारे actual masses हैं. If I take the simplest ratio between our masses, simplest ratio क्या होता है? मैथ्स में पढ़ा है ना? If you divide all of these number by the common number, which is the largest common number, that is 40. If you gonna divide 80 by 40, you will get 2:1. So 2:1 is the simplest ratio between our actual masses. This shows that I am twice heavier than Ali. ठीक है? तो ये हमारा relative mass है. Let's say if I hide the actual masses, so and if I just give you the relative masses between my mass and Ali's mass, so you just can compare our masses. आप actual masses नहीं बता सकते हो. आप बस ये बता सकते हो कि Sir Moosa Khan is twice heavier than Ali. That's it. Similarly, we are not going to tell you the actual mass of protons. To remember that in grade 11, protons and neutron is 1:1. मास प्रोटॉन का क्या है नहीं बता रहे, न्यूट्रॉन का मास क्या है नहीं बता रहे, लेकिन जो मास प्रोटॉन का है वही मास न्यूट्रॉन का भी है. एंड इलेक्ट्रॉन्स are about 2000 times lighter than that of the protons and the neutrons. That's why its relative mass is 1 over 2000. You can also remember this value in the decimal, which is 0.0005. It's up to you. Moreover, if any of you have already learned this value as 1/1840, तो बेटा वो भी सही है. If you have studied this value to be 1/1836, वो भी सही है. But the examiner allows 1/2000 as well, or 0.0005 as well. But do not write negligible. Electrons mass is negligible in front of protons and neutrons, but you have to state the value of the relative mass of electrons. So 1/2000 लिखना, negligible नहीं लिखना. 0.0005. If you want to write 1/1840, that's also okay. If you want to write 1/1836, that's also okay. Actual में तो ये आता है number, but हम round off करके ये लिख देते हैं. Examiner कहता है चलो बच्चे जाने दो, marks दे दो, खैर. ठीक है. Similarly, you will study about the charges, what charges are, what is the unit of charge in physics. तो अभी हम इसको discuss नहीं कर रहे, but in chemistry, as far as chemistry is concerned, you should remember the relative mass of protons and relative charge of protons and electrons. Protons are positive, electrons are negative, and neutrons and no charge. So उसको हम कहते हैं neutral. Got it? आगे बढ़े. अच्छा जी. अब different elements are made up of different atoms. अब हमें पता कैसे चलेगा कि कौन से एलिमेंट के एटम में क्या डिफरेंस है. तो उसके लिए all of these elements are compiled in one chart which is known as periodic table of elements. ये केमिस्ट्री का मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट डॉक्यूमेंट है, चाहे आप ओ लेवल केमिस्ट्री पढ़ रहे हो, whether you are studying IGCSE's chemistry or A level chemistry or any other board around the world. ठीक है. If you are even going to study higher chemistry, again this periodic table is the most important document of chemistry because it has compiled all the elements of the world in one place. सिर्फ यही एलिमेंट्स है जिनसे पूरी दुनिया बनी हुई है. ठीक है. Everything, this pencil, this human body, the table I am sitting at, the chair I am using, ठीक है, the food we are eating, the water we are drinking, the clothes we are wearing, everything is made up of all of these elements which you can see right in front of you. ठीक है. इसके अलावा और कुछ भी नहीं है. just imagine the beauty of chemistry कि जो चीजें पूरी यूनिवर्स में है वो सारी बेटा ये सामने है, इसी से बना हुआ है सब कुछ. ठीक है. अब the periodic table shows the elements. Actually, the periodic table, each element is represented by its single atom. For example, if we are dealing with a carbon element, so carbon element is represented by one carbon atom. If you have studied about one carbon atom of carbon element, it means you have studied about all the carbon atoms throughout the universe. अगर आपने एक carbon atom को study कर लिया ना, for example, you guys must be doing barbecue in these days. तो जो कोयला होता है, that is carbon. ठीक है. If you pick out just one carbon atom and study that one carbon atom, it means you have studied all the carbon atoms around the world. सारे कार्बन एटम एक जैसे ही होंगे, थोड़ा सा जो चेंज है आइसोटोप्स में वो हम आगे देखते हैं अभी, लेकिन आपने एक पढ़ लिया तो सब कुछ पढ़ लिया. अब बेचारे एटम के पास इतनी सारी चीजें है ही नहीं पढ़ने के लिए. एटम के पास क्या क्या है? एटम हैज ओनली 3 टाइप्स ऑफ सबएटॉमिक पार्टिकल्स, प्रोटॉन्स, न्यूट्रॉन्स एंड इलेक्ट्रॉन्स. All of these atoms have different quantities of protons, neutrons, and electrons. That's why they have different properties and they make up different elements. Carbon atom has different number of protons, neutrons, and electrons. A gold atom has different number of protons, neutrons, and electrons. So if we place many gold atoms together, gold element banega, it has different properties. If we place many carbon atoms together, on the basis of different number of subatomic particles, सब कुछ different हो जाता है. हमें कैसे पता चलेगा कि किसी भी एलिमेंट के एटम के पास कितने नंबर ऑफ सबएटॉमिक पार्टिकल? लेट्स से इफ वी आर डीलिंग विद सोडियम एटम, a sodium element is made up of many sodium atoms. If you want to study about sodium atom, how would we know that a sodium atom contains how many protons, neutrons, and electrons? From these two numbers given at the top and the bottom of the symbol of sodium. See, here we have a key written where they have given you the name. First they will write you the name of sodium element. Above it you have a symbol of sodium. अब symbol और name, basically ये जो sodium है, the sodium spelling does not have N or A in it. However, the symbol is still Na. अब sodium की spelling में ना तो N आता है ना A आता है, तो ये इसके जो Greek names है उससे हमने symbol derive किए हुए most of the elements. तो इसके आपको परेशान नहीं होना कि भाई ये Na क्यों दिया हुआ है सोडियम को, बस दिया हुआ है. You are not supposed to learn that. The periodic table will be given in your exam. ये given होगा exam में, तो याद तो करना नहीं है. But थ्रू आउट योर स्टडी ऑफ कोर्स आपको खुद ही बहुत सारी चीजें याद हो जाती है, ठीक है। सो इन द प्रोडक्ट टेबल ईच एलिमेंट इज रिप्रेजेंटेड बाय अ सिंगल एटम. They have written you the name of the element. At the top of it, they have given you the symbol of an element. And we have two numbers written at the top and the bottom of the symbol. First number written at the top is known as atomic number, and the number written at the bottom is known as relative atomic mass. Relative atomic mass has two more names जो हम आज की क्लास में पढ़ने वाले हैं. So let's discuss कि ये numbers हमें क्या बताते हैं. So an element is represented by a single atom. For example, sodium element is made up of many sodium with the symbol Na, and we have two number written with the symbol of sodium. The one is 11, the other one is 23. The number written at the top of the symbol is known as atomic number. Another name for atomic number is proton number. See, this number has two names, atomic number and proton number. आपको दोनों याद रखना. And the number written at the bottom of the symbol is given three names: mass number. It is also known as nucleon number, and this is also known as relative atomic mass. अब the word relative atomic mass हमें आगे जाके समझ आएगा in the chapter moles. So right now we are not going to use this name relative atomic mass. We will study about it in the chapter moles and stoichiometry. For now you have to remember two names of this number, mass number and the nucleon number. So what does atomic number tells us and what does mass number tells us, वो अभी हम देख लेते हैं. Atomic number, another name for atomic number is proton number. So another name is proton number, and this actually relative atomic mass is basically something we cannot quantify. मतलब हम उसको काउंट नहीं कर सकते. तो इसका थोड़ा सा जो कॉन्सेप्ट है ना आमना, वो थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट है. So it's not same as that of the protons, neutrons and electrons. That's why we are not discussing relative atomic mass right now. ठीक है, मोल्स के चैप्टर में उसकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग बनेगी. चलो भाई, just tell me about atomic number or proton number. Atomic number हमें क्या बताता है? It tells us about the number of protons present in the न्यूक्लियस ऑफ एन एटम. किसी भी एलिमेंट के एटम के न्यूक्लियस में नंबर ऑफ प्रोटॉन्स कितने हैं वो हमें एटॉमिक नंबर बताता है. फॉर एग्जांपल, सोडियम हैज एन एटॉमिक नंबर ऑफ 11. इट मींस अ सोडियम एटम न्यूक्लियस कंटेन्स हाउ मेनी प्रोटॉन्स? इट हैज 11 प्रोटॉन्स, राइट? Atomic number also tells us about the number of electrons present in an atom. It also tells us about the number of electrons present in the atom. Now, electrons, they are not present in the nucleus. Electrons, they revolve around the nucleus. But we need to know the number of electrons that are present in a particular atom. So number of protons are also equals to number of electrons. A sodium atom has an atomic number of 11. It means it has 11 protons as well as 11 electrons. जितना protons है उतने ही electrons भी हैं, right? So atomic number actually tells you two very important things. Atomic number tells you about the number of protons. भाई एटम के पास है क्या? बेचारे एटम के पास प्रोटॉन, न्यूट्रॉन, इलेक्ट्रॉन तीन ही तो चीजें हैं, और है ही क्या बेचारे के पास? अगर वही आपको पता चल गया तो आपको सब कुछ पता है उस एटम के बारे में, कि वो कौन है, वो किस एलिमेंट का एटम है, हाउ इट विल रिएक्ट, टू विच इट विल रिएक्ट, सब कुछ पता लग जाएगा आपको। बस यही तो पता लगाना है। सो यू हैव फ्रॉम द वन नंबर, atomic number or the proton number, you have actually identified how many number of protons and number of electrons are present in the atom. Another thing that atomic number tells you, it is basically the identification of an element. ये अभी हम थोड़ा सा आगे चल के समझते हैं इसका क्या मतलब है. For now, just write it down. It is the identification of an element. Right? Identification होती है element. क्या मतलब identification होती है? Because sodium's atomic number is 11. So no other element can have an atomic number of 11. There is only one element in the whole world or in our periodic table that has an atomic number of 11. No two elements can have the same atomic number. If I say I have an element which atomic number is 12, so you can just skim through the periodic table and you can find that particular element which has an atomic number of 12, because there is only one element in the whole periodic table which has an atomic number of 12, and that is magnesium. See, if you see the complete periodic table, you cannot find any other element with an atomic number of 12. कोई और element मिलेगा ही नहीं आपको. And if you see the periodic table is basically arranged from left to right. If you see hydrogen atom, after hydrogen atom you have helium, and after helium you have lithium, beryllium, then boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon, then sodium, magnesium, aluminum, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur. So elements in the periodic table are basically arranged from left to right in a horizontal direction. And if you see how they are arranged, by hydrogen is the first element, by helium is the second element, because these elements are arranged in order of increasing atomic number. Hydrogen has an atomic number of 1, helium has an atomic number of 2, lithium has an atomic number of 3, beryllium has an atomic number of 4, then boron 5, carbon 6, nitrogen 7, oxygen 8, fluorine 9, neon 10. Counting may, if you have seen 10, so if you are increasing the counting or if you are moving forward in the counting, 10 cannot come again. It means only one element in the periodic table can have an atomic number of 10, that is neon. आगे बढ़ोगे तो 10 के बाद you will get 11, then 12, then 13. अब 13 वापस तो नहीं आएगा ना counting में. You will move on to 14, 15, 16, 17. So atomic number is the identification of an element, right? If I ask you, I have an element which has an atomic number of 47. Can you identify which element is that? If you see the periodic table, the atomic number 47 is of silver element. Got it? So atomic number actually is important from 4 perspectives. It first tells you about the number of proton in the nucleus of an atom. It tells you about the number of electrons in the atom. Or it is also the identification of an element. And fourthly, elements of the periodic table are arranged in order of increasing atomic number. Elements in a periodic table are arranged with increasing atomic number. Right? So far so good. You need to ask anything? किसी को कुछ पूछना है? अब्दुल्ला, अबीहा, आफरीन, अस्मा, किस्वा, आनिक, वानिया, ज़ैनब, रैंडमली नाम ले रहा हूँ. किसी को कुछ पूछना है? थोड़ा सा फास्ट चल रहे हैं, ठीक है? आसान सी चीजें. We'll try our best के coming class में we will get done with this chapter. Okay, moving on. Now the other number that is written at the bottom of the symbol of sodium, that is 23, which is known as mass number or nucleon number. So what is the significance of mass number and the nucleon number? Let me write the definition for you. What does mass number or the nucleon number represents? Most commonly it is known as nucleon number, but sometimes in past paper he has used the name mass number as well. So that's why we have to use both the names. We have to learn both the names. We should be aware of both the names. So mass number or the nucleon number, it actually tells you about the sum of protons and neutrons in the nucleus of an atom. क्या मतलब है इस बात का? A sodium atom has an atomic number of 11 and a nucleon number of 23. So this 23 actually tells you that total number of protons, if I write it mathematically, the total number of protons plus neutrons in the atom or the nucleus of sodium would be equals to 23. You already know the number of protons in the sodium atom. That should be 11 from the atomic number. Okay? From the atomic number, you know a sodium atom has 11 protons. Its nucleon number is 23. Number of protons are 11. So you can work out the number of neutrons. How many number of neutrons should be there in the nucleus of a sodium? So 23 minus 11, that would give you 12. So there are 12 neutrons in the nucleus of sodium. There are 11 protons in the nucleus of sodium. Altogether, they would add up to give you 23 nucleons. What is the difference between neutron and nucleon? See, spellings देखना, big common mistake है ये. If you gonna add up protons plus neutrons, you're gonna get nucleon. So a sodium atom has 11 protons and 12 neutrons. This would give you 23 nucleons. So nucleons is basically both for protons and neutrons. ठीक है, एक न्यूट्रॉन है विद R, एक न्यूक्लियन है विद L. ठीक है, ये अक्सर हम लोग मिक्स कर देते हैं, मिक्स नहीं करना है इसको. न्यूट्रॉन इज विद R, which is the subatomic particle present in the nucleus of an atom, and nucleon is basically the combined name for both protons and neutrons, right? Spelling nucleons की ये होती है. Got it? If I give you any atom of the periodic table, let's say if I give you hydrogen, hydrogen has an atomic number of 1. How many protons are present? 1 proton. Can you tell me the number of neutrons present in the hydrogen atom? You just have to subtract these two numbers. So, do number लिखे हुए, just subtract these two numbers, you will gonna get the number of neutrons. The number of neutrons are 0 in an hydrogen atom. It means hydrogen atom does not have any neutrons. And what about electrons? The number of electrons are equals to number of protons, right? For example, if I give you potassium atom, a potassium atom has a symbol K. I am seeing it from the periodic table. याद नहीं करना. ठीक है? The atomic number of potassium is given to be 19, which is written at the top of the symbol of the potassium, and the nucleon number is 39. So can you tell me the number of protons in the nucleus of potassium? It is 19. What about number of electrons? Again 19, because number of protons in any atom is equal to number of electrons. And what about number of neutrons? This is 39 minus 19, which would give you how many neutrons? 20 neutrons, right? 20 आएगा ना? 29, 39, yes, 20 आएगा. I'm very bad at maths. Got it? सबको आती है यहाँ तक बात समझ? Okay, moving on. अगर किसी को फास्ट लग रहा है ना ये, तो बेटा either you can stay after the class or we're gonna give you the recorded lecture जिसमें हमने ना बहुत slow पढ़ा है, जब हम जब basic build up कर रहे थे ना उसमें. But most of you guys must have already studied chemistry in previous classes, तो आता ही होगा सबको. I don't think so कि problem हो. फिर भी अगर किसी को लगे कि कुछ confusion है, तो make sure to inquire these questions. पूछ लेना. Rows refer to the period number. rows represent the number of shells in an atom. किस हुआ? Rows represent करते हैं number of shells and group represent the number of valence electrons. So we were talking about sodium atom. A sodium atom has 11 protons and 23 is the nucleon number. So we know it has 11 protons, it has 11 electrons, and it has 12 neutrons. Now protons and neutrons, 11 protons and 12 neutrons are present at the center of an atom, which is known as the nucleus of sodium. What about electrons? Electrons, they are not present in the nucleus. They are actually revolving around the nucleus. न्यूक्लियस के सराउंडिंग में दे आर ऑर्बिटिंग अराउंड द न्यूक्लियस. अब जब वो ऑर्बिट करते हैं ना अराउंड द न्यूक्लियस, दे आर ऑर्बिटिंग इन एनर्जी शेल्स. जो ट्रैक्स होते हैं ना, एक्चुअली एक इमेजिनरी लाइन बनाई है मैंने. दे आर नॉट अ फिजिकल ट्रैक. एक स्पेस में दे आर ऑर्बिटिंग अराउंड द न्यूक्लियस. जैसे सोलर सिस्टम में प्लैनेट्स, अर्थ इज रिवॉल्विंग अराउंड सन. तो अर्थ किसी ट्रैक पे तो नहीं है ना. इट इज इन द स्पेस, इट इज रिवॉल्विंग अराउंड द सन, बट इट इज मेंटेनिंग, it is always maintaining the constant distance from the sun. Similarly, all the planets, they are maintaining their constant orbit around the sun. ठीक है? And these orbits in an atom where electrons revolve around the nucleus, these orbits are known as energy shells, or sometimes they are just referred to as shells. कभी कभार हम इनको energy shells कहते हैं. Sometimes they are just referred as shells, or sometimes you can also hear the name orbits. इनके बारे में मैं लिखवा देता हूं. These are the paths around the nucleus where electron revolves. Kiswa beta, if you see the row number or the period number in the periodic table, if let's say sodium is present in the third row, it means it is in third period of the periodic table. So a sodium atom will have 3 energy shells. That's how you can tell the number of shells from the period number. And sodium is in group 1, it means it must have 1 outermost shell electron. Right? ये भी अभी हमें पढ़ना है. Okay. So if you have seen this diagram of the solar system, not all the planets are orbiting in the same orbit. Okay, they are revolving in different orbits. Similarly, not all the electrons, a sodium atom has 11 electrons. Not all the 11 electrons, they are revolving around the nucleus in the same orbit. They are revolving in different orbits. अब कौन से ऑर्बिट में या कौन से शेल में या कौन से एनर्जी शेल में कितने इलेक्ट्रॉन्स रिवॉल्व कर रहे हैं, उसको जानने के लिए we have to study about electronic configuration. This is known as electronic configuration. Basically, these 11 electrons are not gonna revolve around the nucleus in one single orbit. Some electrons will stay near to the nucleus of sodium. They will revolve nearer to the nucleus. Some electrons will revolve in the orbit which are away from the nucleus, and some electrons are going to revolve in the orbit which are far away from the nucleus. So different number of electrons, they revolve in different orbits. So uske liye we're going to study about electronic configuration. Another name for electronic configuration is electronic structure. अच्छा, अब ऐसा नहीं है कि for every concept you're gonna have to study the 2 names. ऐसा नहीं है बिल्कुल. सिर्फ इसी चैप्टर में ऐसा है कि that you have multiple names for one concept. ठीक है, आगे नहीं होगा ऐसा. तो घबराना नहीं कि ये सर 2 नाम बता रहे हैं हर चीज के. Electronic configuration or electronic structure is basically that how many number of electrons they revolve in how many orbits. For example, in order to make the electronic configuration of any atom, first you have to understand few basic rules. And what are the rules for making electronic configuration? These are very simple rules. मैं लिखवा देता हूँ. First rule is first shell atom of any element, its shell can hold up to maximum of 2 electrons. It cannot hold more than 2 electrons. Atom of any element, its first shell will gonna hold only 2 electrons. 2 से कम हो सकते हैं, it can be 1, but it cannot be more than 2. First shell can hold up to maximum of 2 electrons only. जो E dash लिखा है, that is the short form for electrons. Second shell can hold up to maximum of 8 electrons. It can hold less than 8 electrons, but no more than 8 electrons. 8 से कम हो सकते हैं, ज्यादा नहीं हो सकते. Similarly, all the shells beyond second shell can hold up to maximum of 8 electrons, not more than 8 electrons. Third shell and the fourth shell, it can also hold up to maximum of 8 electrons. This is the basic rule. भाई बड़ा सिंपल सा रूल है. Only first shell can hold up to maximum of 2 electrons. All other shells after first shell can hold up to maximum of 8 electrons. For example, क्या मतलब है इस बात का? If we see the structure of sodium atom, we know sodium has 11 protons as well as 11 electrons. अब ये 11 electrons सोडियम के न्यूक्लियस के सराउंडिंग में रिवॉल्व कर रहा है. किस तरह से? अब सोडियम के न्यूक्लियस के सराउंडिंग में जो ऑर्बिट्स हैं, फर्स्ट एनर्जी शेल है या फर्स्ट ऑर्बिट है, it can only hold up to maximum of 2 electrons. So out of 11 electrons, first shell can only have 2 electrons, not more than 2 electrons. अब electrons को I am making like a red dot here in the first orbit. They are revolving. ये तो अभी आपको static दिख रहा है, but they are revolving around the nucleus. The second shell can hold up to maximum of 8 electrons. There are total of 11 electrons in the nucleus of in the atom of sodium, right? So 2 electrons are in the first shell. There are total of 11 electrons. अभी तक आपने सिर्फ 2 electrons डाले हैं. तो second shell cannot hold the other 9 electrons. Second shell can hold up to 8 electrons only. The second shell can hold only 8 electrons. Now the last electron, that would be your 11th electron, will be in the third shell. So shells में जितने number of electrons हैं उनको भी represent or we separate by this comma. This represents first shell, then second shell and third shell. So sodium atom has 3 shells. First shell has 2 electrons. Second shell has 8 electrons. अच्छा जब हम फर्स्ट शेल के इलेक्ट्रॉन्स बनाते हैं ना, तो वी मेक इट लाइक दिस, वन ऊपर एंड द अदर वन एट द बॉटम. अब ये हार्ड एंड फास्ट रूल नहीं है, बट मोस्टली कैम्ब्रिज फॉलोज दिस डिजाइन. देन फ्रॉम द सेकंड शेल ऑनवर्ड्स वी मेक pairs of electrons. दो साथ बनाते हैं, 2 electrons together, 2 electrons together, 2 electrons together. For example, if you have to make 8 electrons in the second shell of sodium atom, first 2 electrons in a pair, then 2 more electrons in a pair, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Now coming towards the third shell only has 1 electron. एक electron हमने यहाँ बना दिया, right? So this basically is the electronic configuration of sodium atom. This is electronic configuration, or sometimes it is also known as electronic structure. From the periodic table, you are only supposed to make the electronic configuration or electronic structure of the first 20 elements of the periodic table. You have to make electronic configuration of only those elements which has 20 or less than 20 number of electrons. If you see the periodic table, let's say periodic table पे बना लेते हैं. Here if you see the periodic table, a hydrogen atom has only 1 electron. How can I say hydrogen atom has 1 electron? Because its atomic number is 1. Atomic number actually tells you about the number of electrons. So electronic configuration of hydrogen atom would be only 1. It means hydrogen atom has 1 shell and that shell contains 1 electron. If we move towards helium atom, a helium atom has an atomic number of 2. It means a helium atom has 2 electrons. So both of these 2 electrons will be in the first shell of helium. It means a helium atom has one shell and it will hold how many electrons? Only 2 electrons. Let me show you diagram बनाइए, जल्दी हो जाएगा काम. Just a moment. Meanwhile, if you have any questions to ask, feel free to ask, please. किसी को कुछ पूछना है जल्दी जल्दी पूछ सकते हो. See here, we have already made electronic configuration of sodium. Potassium, let's say, has an atomic number of 19. So we have to add total of 19 electrons around the nucleus of potassium atom. But we know in order to complete 19 electrons, a first shell can only hold up to maximum of 2 electrons. So 2 electrons in the first shell. Now the second shell can only hold up to maximum of 8 electrons. But we have to add up total of 19 electrons in the atom of potassium. Right now, first shell has 2 electrons, second shell has 8 electrons. So there are total of 10 electrons, including first shell and the second shell. But we have to add 19 electrons. So we're gonna add 8 electrons in the third shell. So this would become total of 18 electrons. But total of we have to add total of 19 electrons. So there will be 1 electron left that will come in the fourth shell, right? So its electronic configuration would be 2, first shell has 2 electrons, second shell has 8 electrons, third shell has 8 electrons, and the last shell has 1 electron. Right? So if we make the structure of potassium atom, we have to make how many number of shells? 4 shells. First shell will contain 2 electrons, second shell will contain 8 electrons, the third shell will also contain 8 electrons, and the last shell will contain 1 electron. ठीक है, अब ना अभी मैं क्लास के एंड में आप लोगों को बताता हूँ about recordings. So the last shell is also known as, this is also known as outer most shell. Last shell of any atom is given a special name which is known as outermost shell. This is also known as, it has again 2 names. This is also known as valence shell. इसको या तो हम outermost shell कहेंगे या valence shell कहेंगे. And the electrons that are present in the outermost shell are also known as outermost shell electrons. अब इनको special name देने का reason ये है because they actually gonna determine the chemical properties of any atom, and ultimately how any element will gonna react, that depends upon the number of valence shell electrons. ये बहुत important है, इसलिए इनको अलग से नाम देना पड़ रहा है. VIP electrons हैं ये, in short. They are also known as valence electrons. ठीक है, इनके बारे में ही पूरी केमिस्ट्री में इनके बारे में पढ़ना है आप, आखिरी शेल के जो इलेक्ट्रॉन्स हैं. See, if you're going to make the electronic configuration of magnesium, its atomic number is 12. Its first shell can hold up to 2 electrons. Second shell may we have to add 8 electrons, and the last shell must contain 2 electrons because we have to add up of total of 12 electrons. First shell may we cannot give more than 2 electrons. Second shell we cannot add more than 8 electrons. So if we're going to add 2 and 8, this would make up 10 electrons. So in the we have to utilize the third shell, and we have to add how many electrons in the third shell? 2 electrons, because we have to make total of 12 electrons. Similarly, if you have to make the electronic configuration of chlorine, if you see in the periodic table, the atomic number was written at the top of the symbol of chlorine. Here it is written at the bottom of the symbol. It doesn't matter if I write the atomic number at the top of the symbol or the bottom of the symbol. In fact, I can write the atomic number in front of the symbol. Why they have given you the atomic number at the bottom of the symbol? Because In exam, actually, examiner prefers to write the atomic number at the bottom, whereas in the periodic table, he has given the atomic number at the top. Periodic table में खुद top पे दे रहा है, exam में नीचे लिख के दे देता है. But the atomic number is the unique identification of an element. It does not changes. Doesn't matter if you write it at the top or you write it at the bottom. Chlorine has an atomic number of 17 that you can see from the periodic table. It will stay 17. So if chlorine atom has an atomic number of 17, it means it has 17 protons as well as 17 electrons. Now, what would be the electronic configuration of chlorine? You have to make the electronic configuration using the 17 electrons. The first shell can only hold up to 2 electrons because it is the maximum capacity of a shell. It cannot hold more than 2 electrons. A second shell can hold up to maximum of 8 electrons. 8 से कम हो सकता है, 8 से ज़्यादा नहीं हो सकता. But we have to add a total of 17 electrons. So up till now, from the first shell and the second shell, we have 10 electrons. So the last shell must have 7 electrons. तभी तो 17 बनेंगे, right? But you have to make the electronic configuration up till 20 elements of the periodic table. मतलब आपको सबका नहीं बनाना होता. You cannot make the electronic configuration of all the elements of the periodic table. Reason behind this, because उसके बाद जो है ना थोड़ा सा रूल चेंज हो जाता है हमारे पास. आ गया periodic table. और सारे हैंडआउट्स एक साथ आ गए. Where was the periodic table? So you have to make the electronic configuration of hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, till neon, and then argon and calcium. That's it. इसके आगे बेसिकली जो रूल हमने पढ़ा है ना, वो रूल चेंज हो जाता है. अब वो रूल चेंज इसलिए हो जाता है क्योंकि हमने अभी जो है ना आपको पूरा रूल नहीं बताया ना, आपको बताया जाएगा ग्रेड 11. आपको वो रूल 11 में पढ़ाया जाता है. तो अभी तक हम जो है वो सिर्फ कैल्शियम तक रखेंगे. So you have to make the electronic those who haven't done that homework, for now you have to make the electronic configuration up till calcium atom. In the coming class we're gonna study about ions, ठीक है, and the stability of ions and about isotopes. अच्छा, अब थोड़ा सा कमिंग क्लास में मैं कुछ ब्रेकडाउन इस तरह से करूंगा. दो स्टूडेंट्स who have been studying in the initial introductory classes or foundation classes, they have already studied so many things, so it's better that you guys give the test on Thursday. Like we have some of the people that were studying before, so those students can give the test on Thursday, and the rest of you guys who have just joined us today, or maybe who have just joined us in past 2 classes, तो वो continue कर लेना Thursday वाली class. The other student will have to appear in the test, right? Clear हो गई यहाँ तक बात? होमवर्क के लिए आप इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉन्फ़िगरेशन बना लेना अगर आपने पहले से नहीं बनाई हुई. All the notes and recordings will be shared with you, Anushe. All the class notes that we are writing in the class, all the handouts that typewritten handout जो अभी मैं जिससे कहीं दिखा रहा था ना आपको diagrams वगैरह, that will be given to you. The recorded lectures and obviously the worksheets, past paper worksheets. टेस्ट में क्या आएगा? टेस्ट में वही आएगा जो हमने इन द मंथ ऑफ जून चीजें पढ़ी थी, ठीक है. लेकिन ये टेस्ट सबके लिए नहीं होगा. जिन्होंने ज्वाइन आज से किया है या लास्ट वीक से किया है, वो टेस्ट में अपेयर नहीं होना. वो मेरे साथ थर्सडे को एक क्लास ले लेना. बाकी जो those who are studying for the whole month of June, they only have to give the test on Thursday. Mariam, if you haven't taken the foundation classes, आपको Thursday को regular class लेनी. Those students who have been taking the classes, they have to appear in the test. That's it. बस फिर उसके बाद जो हमारी क्लासेस होंगी सब एक ही पेज पे होंगे, तो फिर कोई इस तरह का इशू नहीं होगा. You can give the test after 1 week. ठीक है अनुषे, जब आप वो पढ़ लोगे तो आप 1 वीक बाद दे देना. ठीक है भाई. एनीथिंग एल्स? किसी को और कुछ पूछना है? We have only 2 new students today ना जिन्होंने हैंड रेस किया था, और तो नहीं थे कोई, बाकी और पहले से। रिकॉर्डिंग बेटा आमना पोर्टल पे मिलेगी, आपने जहां से एक्सेस लेना है ना पोर्टल का, जहां से आपने ज्वाइन किए हैं क्लासेस, उस प्लेटफॉर्म के पोर्टल से मिलेगी। So we have 3 students, Khushbak, Saad and Adami and Amna and Anushe. Oh, so we have around 5, 4, 5, 6. Oh, okay. So we have around 6 students. तो बेटा आप लोग थर्सडे को क्लास लोगे, बाकी जो लोग लास्ट मंथ जून में पढ़ रहे थे वो टेस्ट देंगे। नहीं मारूफ, आपका आइसोटोप्स टेस्ट में नहीं आएगा, ठीक है। अब आइसोटोप्स हम ट्यूसडे को पढ़ेंगे, डोंट वरी, हम टेस्ट में वही देंगे जो पढ़ा है। मुझे पता है मैंने क्या पढ़ा है टेस्ट में मारूफ। मेक श्योर यू गेट फुल मार्क्स, ठीक है बच्चों। कोई और किसी का सवाल है तो पूछ सकते हो, अदरवाइज फिर आप लोग जा सकते हैं। कोई और कंफ्यूजन